Hello, this is Strategy Miscellany, and this is episode 7 of our Terra Invicta campaign. It is about 5 years on, October of 2027, and in about 2 weeks, our Mars base should start actually producing space resources, which will enable us to basically have a bunch more boost available for things because we won't have to lift things up from Earth and really start to grow the space economy faster. At that point, a real constraint on us becomes mission control, some of which we can do at our stations. I have a couple of ideas to resolve some of that issue, but a lot of it we will just have to build by increasing that as a national priority down on Earth. Now, full disclosure, I played for about 9 months ahead of this and then realized it wasn't recording. And so I'm going to be kind of doing over things I did already with a little bit of hindsight knowledge. Of course, with all the random chances, things would go differently even if I did everything totally the same as last time, I'm sure. But one of the things I learned is that unfortunately we really can't afford to keep the CIA under our control. It's just too expensive.
Ready.
So I'm going to need to get rid of them. And I just need to find who I gave them to. Yeah, Shu Yao here. And I'm going to give up on the CIA for now. And then we will come back and hopefully get them back once we have the room for it. So immediately that brings my national budget or my global budget positive, um, which is good. I would like to have a little more money so I can start doing more direct investments in countries. I haven't really shown that off. So let me demonstrate real quick. You can take a country, like say I've been trying to make Bangladesh's economy grow quite a bit. And one thing you can do is direct investment, where you can basically spend your money to make a country's priorities complete instantaneously. So I could do like 3 economy priorities for Bangladesh um, by spending 2.4k cash and 11.2 influence. And so I'm actually going to do that. I'm going to spend 3 in economy and 1 in knowledge. And you can see immediately their GDP went up a little tiny bit. It's not really the most cost-effective way unless you have a lot of extra money lying around, which is why I haven't done much of it. And it works a lot better on smaller countries, or at least smaller economies, than larger countries. Um, for example, India, if I tried to do direct investments in, it costs me considerably more per chunk. 1.2k as opposed to I think Bangladesh was like 700. So with that entail, I will continue building up our countries here on Earth and trying to resolve this control cap issue and continue building up the space economy, especially once our Mars base starts producing. I will get back to you once the Mars base starts producing.
Ready for my mission.
All right, here we are, 2 weeks in, and our outpost mining module has been completed, which means that we are now positive on all space resources. Now, I have a base in orbit of Mars, I believe. And it is building a construction module. Once I have that, it will be much easier to build space assets in the Mars system. But let me look and see if there's another good site on Mars to claim for mining. I do have Phobos, but what I really want right now are some fissiles. And so let me look at their sites here. See if there's anything that's unclaimed that has a decent amount of fizzles or fissiles. Not quite sure how you're supposed to pronounce that. Not really anything that has anything like that. Let me look at Deimos real quick. Deimos doesn't have any. That's a near-Earth asteroid, actually. Must have been hiding near the camera. Let's get back towards Earth. Phobos doesn't have any fissiles either, though it's still a good source of everything else, and we are building on it. So, yeah, I am a bit weak in the fissiles department. To some extent, I can do trades for them, and to some extent, I can boost them from Earth if necessary. But that's something we'll have to look at in the future as we develop our space program. The other thing I wanted to do, if we're ready to do it here, is to go to... yes, we have to complete mission to the inner planets first. Then we can actually start building stuff around Venus and Mercury, which, I mean, Mercury you can do some mining on. Venus you can't, because it's toxic hellscape under 50 atmospheres of pressure, that sort of thing. But by building in the inner planets there, you get close to the sun, which means you can get your solar panels super efficient. So you can have one solar panel that powers a whole base or something close to that. Now, Eros actually has a little bit of fissiles, and it would be kind of fun to have a base on Eros, you know, the expanse and all that. So I'll consider that. This one I should send a probe to, just to see what's there. But yeah, other than that, I will get back to you in January, and we should be expanding the space economy by then, because we'll have built up a few resources. So it is January, and we did succeed with mission to the inner planets, which means we can start building this base in orbit of Venus here. It's in a high orbit over Venus. And the nice thing here is that, see, if I look at one of my solar collectors, normally they produce 10. Here they produce 19. So much better. I think I can run 3 laboratories off that. Let me make sure here. Yeah, they each cost 5. So for now, I'm going to do that. This will be a little research station around Venus. In the future, we'll expand that and probably put a lot of mission control on it. Because right now, I am researching the Hydra language, of course, but also solar arrays, which will be done by April. And once I have the tier 2 solar panels, you know, they're a lot larger, and so I'll need a lot less units of my station to be providing power with them. And so I'll be able to fit a lot more useful stuff on each station, is the plan. That way we can start building more mission control, more research stuff, especially in interface orbits around Earth. I'd better at some point build the actual mining sector on this one here. Here we go. Forgotten about that. Want to start getting resources off of Phobos for sure. So that's the plan out in space. Back on Earth, I was able to turn another Humanity First counselor. So we have intelligence on them again. And so hopefully we can keep that up for a while and have a good idea of what they're doing. Hopefully we can even turn a resistance counselor. I have most of my nations down here focused on basically primary objective is internal development, making the nation stronger. Secondary objective is building mission control. Although India here, I'm actually going to have start building a navy so I can send an army overseas if I have to. And I'm going to dial back the mission control spending a bit from them so that they can focus more on that. But the rest of my nations that have space programs are building out their mission control. So Malaysia, Singapore, the Koreas, and even Thailand are all building more mission control for the cause. And we will continue with developments until April, when I will report to you again. All right, it is April, time for another quarterly report. We have continued with our space development, as you can see by how much our resources are all going up now. The bottleneck might be fissiles. Hopefully we can research fusion power at some point and not really need them anymore. And another nice thing is we have developed solar arrays just recently. So let me go here to Redeemer Station, one of our first stations around Earth, and upgrade some of these solar collectors into solar arrays. So you can see they produce basically 4 times as much electrical power. So if I upgrade a couple of solar arrays, or solar collectors into solar arrays, I can basically, once those are done, take all the other solar collectors off the station and turn them into laboratories and things. So that will be a great thing for our station efficiency. Petra Station here, I can take some of these solar collectors and upgrade the same way. And by doing that, I should be able to turn another one into one of these operations centers. And basically make Petra Station pay for itself in terms of mission control is the idea here. And we should have room left to throw another laboratory or something down. Or a space dock here. There we go. Beautiful. And at Olympic Station, of course, these solar collectors are going to be considerably more powerful. Or these solar arrays, I mean. I have to wait until the orbital core is done, but once I've got that, I should be able to basically power the whole station off one big solar array. Or something close to it. Meanwhile, we're continuing to expand our mining operations. We have a working mine on Phobos. We have a mine being built on this near-Earth asteroid 1951 Lick. We're building a Malfi station up in high Mars orbit. In fact, this one I think we ought to upgrade to an orbital core here. That will put us temporarily over our mission control, but we should be able to get back to that fairly quickly. We have changed some organizations around and are losing a little bit of money. Right now I'm paying for that by running like 10% spoils on Singapore, and that basically covers it. In the long run, I'd rather not do that, and so we will see what we can do to fix that issue. I do have some more probes heading out to other locations around the solar system. I did do a survey of Mercury. And let me look at Mercury here. It actually has some decent fissiles. The problem is it's incredibly expensive to get to Mercury. Costs 71 boosts to get there from Earth. What I think I will be doing is building a space station in Mercury orbit for 36 boost, and then building a construction module there and hopefully being able to build the surface elements from my station in Mercury orbit. Because you do want to get bases on Mercury or in Mercury orbit. Because the sun is just so close, it's basically just free power for you. This is a nice shot here. Mercury eclipsing the sun. So that's what we're doing out in space.
Standing by.
Back on Earth, it's mostly more of the same, aligning our countries towards mission control, building up our counselors. I don't like how low Jody's security rating is here. We need our counselors to have better security ratings. I mean,
What's the
Wanjun's and Melena's are better, but they're
Reporting.
still not good. Yangbiao and Chuyao
Where do
are
you need
good.
me?
They're at, like, 16, 17. That's where I'd like all of them to be someday. So, ideally I'd like all of them to be 25s across the board, of course, but that will be more complicated. Oh yeah, Yellowstone Station here. Building itself up. See if I can put some solar arrays on it, too. And then replace some of these solar collectors with other labs. Alright, so that's the plan. Yellowstone Station should do much better. Now, with all the space development, we're actually getting a significant number of people living in space. If I look at the global intel here, the space population is now 1,671. So, that's pretty impressive, really. And it's just going to keep going up, at least until the aliens start having something to say about the other factions doing that. So, we shall see what happens. I'll continue building up the space economy. Right now, I'm rushing research into this Skunkworks project, because it will allow me to research 3 projects at once, as opposed to simply having just one here. Or just 2 here, I mean. And so, that's my plan. I'll get back to you in 3 months. So now, this is what can happen if you go over your mission control cap. Basically, our people on Phobos have decided they want to defect the Protectorate. And I can try and give them a speech, because I have a lot of persuasion in my counselors. But it's only a 30% chance this will work. Yeah, that did not work. The perfidious Protectorate has stolen our base. And yeah, that's kind of what happens if you go over your
I
mission
have new
control
information.
cap. You gotta be careful with that. I will be more careful in the future. Alright. It is July, and we continue with our projects. You can see this station here has a bunch of solar arrays up, and it will soon have... Let's see when that finishes. It will soon have our first Skunkworks up, which will give us a 3rd research project we can do at a time. Our other stations are also in the middle of constructions here. Petra Station's building a bunch of operations centers to help with our mission control. Amalfi Station's building Skunkworks and some research stuff. Olympic Station is building operations centers, Skunkworks, all that sort of thing. And basically just needs to wait for these solar arrays to get done. And Yellowstone Station is basically just an all research kind of place. So that's all it really is doing right now. I think I can probably stick another research station on here. Let me take a look. Because I still have a solar collector. And I shouldn't need that anymore. So I'm just going to throw on another... Oh, never... Yes, I'm just going to throw on another life science lab there. We do have another base going up on an asteroid, because it actually has a decent amount of fissiles out on 39 Laetitia here. And we are working on this corridor diplomacy, in large part because it will increase our control point cap and help us get eventually expanding into more nations. The Hydra language we should have researched in November. Back on Earth, we are currently doing
At
a
your
large
service.
PR campaign in the US. Basically, I want to have some public support in the US because it's controlled by the Resistance, and I want to be able to mess with that control at some point when and if it becomes necessary, or if and when, but more realistically when. India is still working on its navy so that it can actually move one of these armies around. It's taking a long time. Other than that, you know, our smaller nations are working on developing themselves. The Himalayan states I need to send a counselor to help stabilize too, because it is a bit of a mess over there. You can see there's an insurgency going on, so I need to crack down on that real quick. Singapore, I'm actually running a little bit of spoils off of to balance the budget, unfortunately. Although not very much, it's only 13% of the priorities. Malaysia and Korea are steaming away building mission control. Although Korea, I would like to start inching towards building a navy. I'd like to be able to move one of their armies around someday too. Alright. So that's the current state of things. I'll get back to you in October.
Standing by for orders.
And hopefully by then a lot of these construction projects will be done and we can continue our expansion outwards in space once we have a few more mission control pieces available. Sends another station to the belt or something like that. Alright, here we have a big event. We have figured out that the Hydra language is twofold. It has an auditory aspect, but also a ferrocite-based aspect where they chemically communicate with each other with these little ferrocytes, which are like living pheromone cells, and how they do their mind control. So we're going to start translating the spoken element and see if we can figure out what they're saying from that. And unfortunately, from what we can tell now, basically, we can understand what they're saying, but we can't speak back. We don't seem to be able to engineer the ferrocytes, or at least not yet. So all we can really do is listen to them. So the next step is to attempt to work with them diplomatically. Meanwhile, now's a good time as any for an update. We're going ahead and working through our research tree now. I'm going to research this settlement core so I can build larger bases on planets. I'm also researching advanced Nerva drives and this solar outpost kit that will let me build outposts basically by using a colony ship instead of having to send everything by boost from Earth for the original core. And so that's what we're working on there. Once the advanced Nerva drive is done, I probably will try my hand at designing a ship or two. Our space development continues. I think I should have enough to try and build something on Mercury now, so I'm going to take a look at that. Let's see. Yes, I have enough boost to build an outpost on the surface, and there's some decent sites. You can see this hazard symbol there. It's more difficult to live on Mercury. And everything's heavier because, well, it's Mercury and it's full of blasting heat and radiation. But we can start our base on Mercury here. So you can see here, we're starting with just an outpost core, but a solar collector will produce just a crazy amount, 67 power just from a solar collector. And we'll build a mining complex, of course. And that's really all we need for now on Mercury. We'll build a base in orbit of Mercury, too. Well, I suppose we could use a construction module so that we could build other things on Mercury more quickly. All right. Looking at our other bases here, We do have a space dock around Mars, and the nice thing with that is for sending out probes, like, say, if we wanted to go to... Oh, we can't go out that far yet. We need to do mission to Jupiter first. But for some of these asteroids, we can send probes to them from Mars instead of having to go from Earth. And it's a little bit faster, and we don't have to use any boost for it. So that's real nice. So, just flipping some probes out to see what happens here. And we're getting things completed. We now have... Where did that go? Yeah, our mining complex here on this near-Earth asteroid is complete. So, good news. You can see our space resources are starting to grow at decent rates. We could maybe even sell a little bit of these noble metals, just as kind of a proof of concept. I'm going to sell 23 noble metals down on Earth and make 53 money. Right now, that's not really much at all. As you can see, we're losing money right now due to the cost of our space empire. Although I think we're making up most of it in spoils, so we shouldn't be running out of money anytime soon. But yeah, meanwhile, here on Earth, we still lack the control points to really expand outward any further from where we are. I'm hoping coming up fairly soon, there should be projects we can research that will let us expand some of these nations we have. I think there's one to make sort of a Southeast Asian bloc, and I think there's one to at least unify Malaysia and Singapore. So I'll be looking for those, and I will continue on. We'll make this episode extra long. I'll report back to you in January. So, I'm a little bit late with this quarterly update. It is actually technically February 1st, but a few interesting things have happened. Due to alien intervention, we have gained a control point in the US. The rest of it is the resistance. And so what I'm going to do for now is kind of a worm in the apple sort of thing. I'm just going to run straight spoils, spread corruption in the country, acquire money, and basically use that to help balance my budget and also make the US less powerful. Although the resistance will get a lot of the money that I do from that spoils priority, but I think it's still a good idea. Meanwhile, I just took over Lower Guinea from Humanity First, kind of opportunistically. They actually had been building quite a bit of boost there, so I have a bit more boost income. It's not useful for as much anymore, but there's some research I can do to build basically space resorts in low Earth orbit, and so that I can basically turn some of that boost into straight money income. I was going to run spoils when I thought they had an oil-producing asset, but number one, they don't, and number two, I can run it in the US instead, and directly harm the resistance, while actually running Lower Guinea in a decent manner. Well, decent enough anyway. I'm not going to try and build a democracy right now, but we'll at least grow the economy and try and make things more egalitarian a little bit. So, that's our recent expansions on Earth. Other than that, our Earth assets look pretty much the same as before. Meanwhile, in space, we are still building up here. We have our asteroid mine. We have Redeemer Station, Yellowstone Station, and the new Xanadu Station in low Earth orbit. Now that we have military science labs, I wanted to build some of those because they actually provide a bonus to your armies fighting on the ground, as well as, I believe, a bonus to military research. Unless it's the materials science centers that actually build the bonus to military research. That may be correct. So here at Petra Station, they're going to have a couple more ops centers running once this solar array completes. That's what's preventing those from working. And I do have a base being built on Mercury. It's going to take a little bit to get done. But actually, My Mercury mine will be operating in about 4 days, so excellent. I'll probably build a base in orbit around that, too. In fact, maybe I'll do that now. If I can. Looks like I don't quite have the mission control to do that. I'll see if once I build this construction module on the surface of Mercury, if it lets me build a base around it without difficulty. It looks like I am the first one on Mercury, so good news there. And this should dramatically increase my fissile output. So that's good too. So, pretty soon I'm going to be able to build my first spaceship. I see some of the other factions have built ships. I don't think they're very good ships. But I'll have the advanced Nerva drive done in under a week. And then I think I have to build an actual model of it after I build the baseline craft here. Well, I guess this does create the Nerva drive number 1, so maybe not. So, it's not, the greatest thing in the world, but it's pretty good. The exhaust velocity of 8 kilometers per second, thrust of 334,000 newtons. Requires a lot of power, 1.4 gigawatts. We will see what we can do with that design to build both a really basic warship and a really basic colony ship. Something that can go out and survey asteroids and maybe also plop a colony on them if necessary. So I'll get back to you when we design our first ships. All right, we've got that Nerva drive built. Let's see if we can design a decent ship here. So the first one I'm going to build is basically a scout ship. So I'm going to go to design ship class. And I just want something small, just a gunship here. And I want it to be an explorer. Sphinx class sounds fine. So now that's clear their design. I want to start from scratch. So first off, we need the drive, and that's going to be this advanced Nerva drive here. And then we need the power plant. That's going to be a solid core fission reactor Mark III. And then we need a battery. I think that might be optional, though, and only necessary if we need weapons. No, it looks like it does need a battery. And it does need radiators. These aluminum radiators will work fine. You can see them there. And then utility module is the last thing this one needs. And that's going to be, let's see, here it is. The Mobile Space Science Lab, and this will let us do prospecting out on asteroids. Now, before this will do anything, of course, we need to actually fill it with propellant. And you can see as we add propellant, its acceleration goes down, but its delta V goes up. But of course, you run into diminishing returns, tyranny of the rocket equation, and all that. So this thing cruises along at basically 0.02 gravities, very slow. In combat, it can blast its way up to almost half a G. It'll cost 1 mission control and 1 money per month to support the ship, basically. The main cost of building this ship is the sheer amount of water we'll need. We're going to need more water resources if we're going to be building a lot of ships. And this has 12 kilometers of delta V. So it's not going to be able to do very much. I don't think we can really do a scout ship yet. But we can build a home defense warship. So let's do one of those instead. So this will be, let's see here. This will be an escort ship, which means I can add some missiles on it. I think that'll work better than our very basic cannons. So we'll start with the same drive here, the Nerva drive. And we'll throw in the same power plant. And the basic battery, because that's all we have. Now for radiators, we might want the titanium. They are slightly less vulnerable in combat. They do require, and they're less heavy. So, let's go ahead and put those titanium radiators on. And then utility modules. I don't know if we need any. We might want a heat sink. Although it's quite expensive. 250 tons we'd be adding to the ship. Basically to allow us to retract radiators during combat and look super cool. I don't think we can afford it yet, unfortunately. So let's look at our hull weapons here. So we've got autocannons, we've got 6-inch naval guns, and we've got these generic missiles here. I think these missiles are what we want. These great missiles. Couple stacks of those. Throw on enough propellant tanks to get this thing moving. Alright, so this can do 12 kilometers per second of delta V. It's not particularly fast. It's just a pile of missiles. We can throw some armor on. I have to decide what kind of armor it has. Let's see, I've got a few options here. I think boron carbide is the lightest, actually. Well, actually, this ceramic armor is less heavy. Yeah, let's put a little ceramic on the front here. Alright, we've still got 11 kilometers per second of delta V. We've got an armored nose to this thing. We've got a couple of missile bays. And, oh, we can add in a magazine for additional ammo. You know what? Let's do that. Alright, so this ship will cost quite a bit to build. 214 units of water, 25 units of volatiles, 38 of base metal, 18 of noble metals, 0.38 of fissiles. It'll cost 90 days. It'll cost 1 mission control and 2 money each month. Has a crew of 20 and 3,000 tons. Now, why can I not save the design? Must have a drive, power plant, radiators, battery, armor materials. Oh, I have to choose the armor materials even if I don't put any armor on. So we'll continue with the silicon carbide down here. And an assigned role. Oh, and maybe it doesn't like that the assigned role is Explorer. Let's put Space Superiority on there. This ship design lacks sufficient delta V for quality interplanetary transfers. That's all we need right now, though. This is just a home defense ship. Basically to shoot at other factions' ships if we decide to. Because there's no way we'll ever shoot at the aliens, of course. So now I can build one of these Sphinx-class escorts. I can build one in Venus orbit, Earth, Luna, L4, or Mars orbit. I will build it at Petra Station here. In Earth orbit. Up at the Lagrange point. It'll take 90 days. And I will get back to you in April with our last quarterly report. Unfortunately, our ship won't be quite done, so that'll have to be for next episode. But I'll have another quarterly report for you in April. It is mid-April 2029. Year and a half from when we started this episode, and I think it's a good point to bring it to a close. I do have 2 more mines opening up on Mars because I'm realizing I'm going to need a lot more water output than I currently have. And these sites aren't great for much else, but they do have decent water output. So I'm going to go ahead and build them. I also have a station going up around Mercury. And the nice thing is I was able to build this without using any boost from home because I do have a construction module on the Mercury surface. And so this station, the nice thing is basically I can put in one solar array. It produces 280 power. It basically powers everything I could ever need out here. So I'll have, you know, a skunk works, a couple of ops centers. Why not 3 ops centers and 2 skunk works? And then we ought to have a space dock and a supply depot. And I'll go ahead and put in a couple of labs also here. So yeah, basically this whole station can be powered by one big solar array because it's outside Mercury, and Mercury is really close to the sun. So that's real nice for that. I have a space tourism station under development here, basically just waiting on this solar array to complete, and then all of my tourist berths will power up. And at that point, I should be able to basically get the whole system, or get considerably more income. Basically, every tourist berth costs 0.1 monthly boost to operate. We currently produce 11 boost a month, so we could run 110 of these on boost. And they produce 8 income and 1 influence per month. So per day, that's not really very much. I mean, it's 8/30ths, so like 1/4. But, you know, you get 20 or 30 of these going, and that basically gets rid of my current deficit here that I'm having currently to scramble to fill by running spoils in a couple places. And so, yeah, that's the plan up there. The
Acknowledged.
plan down on Earth, as always, I'm short of control points now that I got this lucky point in the U.S. and opportunistically took this point in Lower Guinea, although it doesn't cost me very much to operate. It only costs me 4.21 points to operate this control point. We've had to spend a lot of effort stabilizing the country, but in the long run, I think we're going to be able to get this country in a better place than it is right now, and producing more income and output for me. Meanwhile, technology is racing along. We have 45% bonus to our we have a 45% bonus to all of our projects due to our counselor engineering bonuses and space skunkworks bonuses. And so we're building level 2 mines. We're getting this devolved space command, which should make it harder for people to steal spaceships from us. We're building this Hall effect drive, which we should be able to use to build a real slow kind of scout ship to go out and do scouting missions. And meanwhile, yeah, Principles of Space Warfare was just researched. We're researching lasers globally, kinetics. I seem to be the only one who's putting much into this advanced atomic manipulation tech, so we might be the first to get things out of nanotech. There's a very expensive fission tech here that will hopefully produce better fission engines too. Once a couple of these finish, I think I will go ahead and try for the opening a diplomatic channel with the aliens project. It's expensive, but I mean, it's part of our goal. We got to do it at some point. I mean, it's what we're here for, right? Ah, okay, they have a station up in geosynchronous orbit. I was wondering what the initiative was doing with this one. So anyway, that's it for this episode. It is April of 2029. We are, let's see, 6.5 years in since this started. And yeah, we finally will have our first spaceship soon. So, that's not too exciting, I suppose. It's just one little ship with some primitive missiles on it that can only mostly just travel around the Earth-Moon system. But, from humble beginnings. All right, thank you very much for watching, and have a great day.